Hey you, it's Jess here and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be planning out my February spread in my reading journal. The journal is by Notebook Therapy and Sanico Cafe version. First, before we're going to set up Feb, I am going to update my yearly trackers at the beginning of the journal. Just so you can see what I usually do these as I read the books, but I had some things to keep track of for you in the video. So I did film this on the 5th, so we're going to fill in the days I did read in Feb. So I ended up only missing one day in January, which I was pretty proud of, especially because I didn't read in November and December. And I finished 7 books, which that's what those black dots are. So on the day that I finish a book, I do a little black dot. Even if I finish 2 books that day, I just put one single black dot. But it's nice to see where I finish books. And I felt like last year I had a lot of... like on the 15th of the month, it was a few months in a row that I always finished a book on that day, which is so random. So you can see my list here of my 7 books. I'm just adding in an 8th book that I finished on the 4th of Feb, so my first February book, which is Star Sight by Brandon Sanderson, which I gave 3.5. In January, I did read the first book in that series, the Skyward series, and the book is called Skyward. And I just continued on, and also I got the audiobooks of them. So I also listened to Starsight as well afterwards. It's hard to say those, Skyward and Starsight. And I did enjoy them. Like they're Brandon Sanderson's like non-Cosmere books, and they're a YA sci-fi series about a girl who wants to become a pilot called Sansa, like a space pilot. And no, they're solid books. They're very YA. So it's not, they don't blow me away as much as his other books. Because I even feel like Mistborn is not quite YA to me either. I don't know. There's a lot like darker themes in those, and presented in a much more mature way than I think Skyward does. But they're still enjoyable little sci-fi. So I have continued reading those. So on this page, I'm just sorting through my wish list. I wanted to add some more books to there because there's a bunch of books I definitely want to pick up. And when I was printing off my book covers, I just printed off a whole page of book covers, and I decided to do the wish list ones to add to the page. So I didn't have to waste too much paper, just printing off other books that I have. And when I print off wishlist books, I like to print off 2 covers, and I keep one for when I finally get the book and I read it, so then I don't have to print off that book cover again in the future, which is useful. And so I just cut them out, and I have a pile of book covers in my sticker collection. I print off all my book covers on removable matte sticker paper that I get from Online Labels, and that'll be linked in the description below. They have a UK as well as a US website, so depending on where you are, I would order from a specific version of the shop. But I highly recommend removable matte sticker paper because even like 2 months later, you can pick it up, no problem, and reuse the sticker. They work really well, especially in these notebooks on the sticker paper. And all the stickers from Scribble Prints Co that are matte are also printed on removable matte. So yeah, I highly recommend that for book covers, especially if you want to move them around. But yeah, these are a whole bunch of more books that I wanted to add. Maybe just in January and Feb so far, I've been reading some second books in a trilogy. So I wanted to put here on the 3rd book of the trilogy, as well as some new releases I'm looking forward to. So in January I read The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence, which is the 2nd book in the Library trilogy. So I have the 3rd book here on my wish list, and I'm currently reading Chaos Vector by Megan O'Keefe, which is the 2nd book in the Protectorate trilogy. So I put the 3rd book on my wish list. Just adding up my series tracker, ticking off my Audible and Kindle libraries here, because that is, I don't really have access to a good English library system because I live in Finland, so I do get most of my books off Amazon, but those are sort of, you make your choices where you can, and if I had access to a better library, then I totally would, but That's what I've got right now. You can see the number 2 is missing on my Goodreads gold countdown. That's because I used the wrong marker color on it, and it made me very angry. So I've just rebought that page from SPC, and it'll be on my next haul. But yeah, so I just couldn't live with the mistake, so I just rebought the stickers so I can replace the 2. My monthly fave for January, I picked The City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is the first book in his Tyrant Philosophers series. And it's a fantasy that's very, it's all about empire, bureaucracy. It's about the Palestine Empire that wants to perfect the world. So they invade and occupy all the other countries, and they replace their religion, they replace their cultures basically to make them perfect in the eyes of the Palestine. And the City of Lost Chances takes place in one of these cities that is occupied, and has been occupied for a few years, or maybe not very long, by the Palestine Empire. And there's a lot of, you get sort of different views of, you get the sort of empire, people who work in it, point of views. You also have this sort of group of students who are possibly getting on the, they don't want to be occupied anymore, so you have a sort of a student uprising happening. You have the factory workers annoyed because they're getting replaced in their work. Basically, in this world, the magic is there's demons, there's curses. This city has an ancient gate in a forest, a grove of trees, that opens into another dimension, and it's actually very dangerous to go through there. But of course, the Palestine Empire wants that, access to that realm. So you have this, also a whole section of the city is under a curse, an ancient curse by a noble family. And basically, if you go into that part of the city, you get taken over by this curse and you become a mindless dancing zombie, basically. You believe you're one of these ancient nobles. It's very cool and very interesting. But I was going to say about the demons is that the factory workers are getting replaced by demons doing the work, because in the neighboring country that got occupied years ago, and in fact a lot of refugees from that country now live in this city, their whole ancient magic in their culture was contracts with demons. And, the Palestine Empire doesn't like that, so they've eradicated most of that. But they don't mind doing that for factory working. So you kind of see how this is all sort of building up. And yeah, so the book was fascinating, and I'm really enjoying the series so far. I've also read the 2.5 novella. You don't need to have read the other books to enjoy the novella, but you kind of see a different area of the empire in that. But yeah, highly recommend that if you want a more, juicy political fantasy, but also a lot of very silly, weird things, a lot of dry humor, a little bit lemony snicket at parts for me, and also a lot of kind of history goodies, because there's definitely feels of the Soviet Union. There's also very much feels of the spread of Christianity into pagan Europe kind of feels. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So that became my book of the January. Because now we're starting on my February layout. Sorry, I was just blabbing on about this book the whole time. But I'm pretty much going to copy what I did in January for Feb. And I'm using the SPC Junk Kit paper galantine, as well as a sheet from the Reading Journal collection. Just some deco pieces. But yeah, all you really need is the junk kit, and you can do this so fast. I haven't actually done any edits or fast forwarding in this whole video, so this whole updating my trackers and also setting up my February pages took me 22 minutes. So I was pretty happy about that. It's a good way to just get the pages down, and so it's ready to enjoy and read for the rest of the month. So I'm loving these junk journaling kits, honestly. And I tried this out in January, but I'm going to do it again in Feb here using the guest check page, paper. But the guest check sticker, I'm using it as a actual list of my TBR. So I'm going to write the name of the book as well as the medium of the book, so audio, physical, or digital. And then once I've read it, I actually tick it off in the first box on the side. So yeah, I really liked the way it worked out in January. So I'm doing that again in Feb. And so I'm going to have a written list with the medium on the one side and the book covers with the star ratings on the other side. So while I set this up and try to get all the stickers down of the base, I guess I could finish up with what else I read in January. I also finished The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. I think I talked about this in my January setup because I had finished it early on in January. That was a really, really good standalone sci-fi. So I highly recommend that one too. I also gave it 5 stars. So both that and The City of Lost Chances were my 5-star reads in January. I also read, it was really a reread, The Woman Who Rides Like a Man, which is Tamara Pierce. It is the 3rd book in the Alana quadrilogy, which is like my favorite childhood books. And last year, Ellen McCrae brought out a edition of the 4 books, which I picked up. So I'm rereading these books for the first time. Probably The Woman Who Rides Like a Man is probably the most like aged and problematic of the group, because these were written in the 80s. And there are editions of the book where Tamara Pierce does sort of a author's note at the end to talk about what she would do differently now, because obviously the 80s is very different to now politically. But I still really enjoyed the story and sort of the character growth that happens here. And I'm looking forward to rereading the last book. And then I also read Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, which is I guess they're called gunpowder fantasy. They're fantasy books, but they have like guns, they have muskets. So it's like a whole subgenre of fantasy, which I feel like there's not a lot that actually do this. And it's not steampunk, but yeah, they have muskets and it's a fantasy world. And I did enjoy it overall. I gave that one 3.5. There was some like, I don't know, the world is very like, basically if you love reading about a whole lot of men, this book is very man heavy. There's a couple of women in this book and they're not treated the best in my opinion. Obviously the fantasy world is obviously kind of misogynist anyway. But yeah, I don't know. the women they don't have point of views, and they're kind of like secondary. I feel like it's very much a man heavy book, and there were some parts of it there's some sections of it where I kind of just like skimmed it. There's like a whole section describing bare knuckle boxing, which it was just to introduce one character who joins the book kind of thing. But I was like, I don't need pages and pages about bare knuckle boxing. It was just very man. So that's why I gave it 3.5. Like, I still enjoyed the overall fantasy story and the sort of gunpowder fantasy world. There's a cool part. You've got a military coup that takes over a kingdom to overthrow who they believe is an unfair king. And then you also have this sort of detective doing some investigative work related to it. You've got a neighboring kingdom wanting to invade. You've got some mystery magic stuff. So yeah, I know. You've got like dead gods who they're trying to bring the gods back. There's a whole mix of stuff in here, and they've got muskets on top. So I don't know. It was fun, but also yes, very very man book. And then I also read Metal from Heaven by August Clark, which is a very it's like a queer. Well, I thought it was fantasy from the looks of it, but it's not fantasy. It's almost steampunk, I guess, steampunk sci-fi-ish, fantasy-ish. I thought it was sci-fi actually, but it was more steampunk fantasy-ish because they kind of have like motorbikes and stuff. I don't know, but it's very much queer based. Your main character, she is a butch lesbian basically, and in this fantasy world, I don't know, it's kind of mixed. I did enjoy it overall. It has a very beautiful, I would say, purple prose. It's very strange. You kind of just have to read and continue on because the way it begins, you're like, what is happening? And parts of it are in second person, so the the main character does say you, like they are referring to me, the reader, or are they? Kind of find that out, but it was a very very interesting book. It was very aspirational. They're obviously trying to break like genre norms here and sort of play with writing. So if you're into that sort of more thing, I do recommend it. There were some parts where I was like, oh, why these horrible people? There's some very horrible people in it, which is just like, why are we spending so much time with them? But that's the way it is. Still an enjoyable book. I did give it 4 stars because it was, I don't know, it was a wacky book, I'll say. Wacky in a very interesting, sort of thought-compelling kind of way. I don't know, I did enjoy it. And then I also read The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence, which is the second book in the library trilogy, which is about a magical library as well as humans and like dog people and lots of like this kind of time traveling a bit. It's definitely a very different fantasy than I've read compared to others. But now while I just work on my sticker placement and decorating February, because we're basically done with it, let's quickly go over my books for Feb. I am currently in the middle of Chaos Vector by Megan O'Keefe, which is the second book in the Protectorate trilogy. I am enjoying that so far. It is a sci-fi opera where basically a corporation owns all of human space. They were able to find the technology to make gates so that humans can travel instantly between planetary systems. So they're able to, basically colonize all of space, but it's all owned by like one company that very much keeps the secret of the gates to themselves. And so that's like a big thing. And then there's all these sort of factions working against them and for them. And it's a really fun, thrilling kind of space opera. And not too difficult to enjoy. It doesn't really have like crazy science in it, I will say. I'm currently in the audiobook right now of An Echo of Things to Come, which is the second in the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington. You probably know this author because of his recent books, The Will of the Many and The Strength of the Few, which are very popular at the moment. I have read The Will of the Many, but I'm going to continue this other trilogy and finish it first because it is a finished trilogy. This was his earlier fantasy trilogy. And if you like, if you're into the Wheel of Time, this is very much Wheel of Time-esque heavy. It's very Wheel of Timey. So, a lot is going on in the book right now, so I don't even know. And then I am also reading Nothing Special, which is a graphic novel that Audrey of SBC gifted me. Not the other year, I think. I think I've had it for a year or more. I think it was Christmas or birthday. She gifted this to me, a bunch of graphic novels. And this is the last one that I need to read from her gifts. And I think this is actually her favorite. Like, she loves this book. So I kept the best for last. And in my winter bingo, I do need to read a gifted book. So that's what I'm going to do for that one. I'm excited to check it out. And then I have my first book that I finished in Feb was Starside. And then I actually booked the wrong Murderbot book here. It's because I had leftover book covers. So I put the wrong one here, but I do replace it off screen. That's the easiness of having removable matte sticker paper. I'm actually supposed to be reading Fugitive Telemetry in the Murderbot books, which I think is the 6th one. And then System Collapse is the 7th one, which is the current latest one. But she is releasing a new one this year called Platform Decay. So I kind of wanted to finish up Murderbot as I have it before the new book comes out, basically. But yeah, so plus on my winter bingo, I needed to read a novella or short story. And although Fugitive Telemetry and System Collapse are longer books in the Murderbot series, I would still sort of like class them as shorter books compared to normal sci-fi books, basically. So that's why I'm going to read those and catch up to do some bingo stuff with that. But yeah, so I do change that to the right book. And that's what I've got so far for Feb. I did finish 7 in January, so who knows what I'll be able to get through, especially because I'm almost done with Chaos Vector. Nothing Special is like graphic novel, and then Fugitive Telemetry is kind of a novella, so I should have some more books later on, especially digital books. But An Echo of Things to Come, the audiobook's like 36 hours long, so I think I'll probably be reading that for the month as my audiobook. It'll take some time. It's hard to describe them because, yeah, it's Wheel of Time. It's like a group of magic friends, kind of, it's very complicated. I feel like you just have to, like, get into it and go for it. But yeah, so, and then, you know, I think I have to reread The Will of the Many before I read The Strength of the Few, because that's like one of the only books I could barely remember. I don't know what happened there, but I just don't. So I think I'm finishing up here. We're almost done with the spread. I think I'm just thinking about how I want to do this or that. Yeah, I was thinking about how I wanted to write my list here on the side, because in January I used a marker and I really liked writing with the thicker pen like the marker. So I went underneath the sticker here to test markers that I might use, and they just didn't work. So I would just use a black pen to write in my TBR. But I'll only write a couple in so far, and I've since then filled out most of the rest of it. But I have room for more books for the month, so I can read 3 extra books on this list in terms of what is blocked and what isn't. That is basically my spread. I'll also fill out the Star Site score, which I gave 3.5. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this setup and seeing me just play with some stickers for my February reading journal setup. Going over my trackers a little bit. This is, straight up 22 minutes of me sitting at my desk. If you journaled as well, I hope you had fun. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Maybe leave me some cherry and heart emojis to match the theme. I know I don't really have like any romance for this month, but I don't know. I'm not really a huge romance reader, so I'm just doing what I wanting to read at the moment. But yeah, if you enjoyed otherwise, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Here's January in comparison. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Let me know what you've been reading. What was your favorite book of January as well? I'd love to hear what you've been reading and what you plan to read in Feb too. Let's just talk books and heart emojis in the comments. But otherwise, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. I love you. Bye-bye.